The Quintessential Quintuplets movie is releasing soon, or it already has, depending on where you are and when you see this. With that, anyone who has caught up with the anime is now waiting to see who Futaro picks. But who is he choosing from? How were these characters, and how was he himself? Well, let's talk about it. Now, luckily, there's only a handful of important characters in this anime, so it won't be dragged on as long. Also, there's gonna be some things I'm gonna talk about that are kind of spoilers, but I need them for some context, so just a heads up. Anyway, let's get on with it.
Now, before I get into the quints, let's talk about our protagonist. I'll be quick since most people care about the Nakano sisters rather than our actual protagonist. So, let's get into it. Now, the reasons for Futaro being so short, unsociable, and overall not well liked by his fellow students stems down from the promise he made to a girl he met as a child. It's respectable. Although, he should have let go of his promise sooner since it was holding him back in life because all he cared about was studying and his sister and nothing else. He does have a lot that is good for him though, such as his care for his family or the quintuplets since he will stand by and help them as much as possible. When you're looking forward to a school trip and then immediately drop all your plans just because your sister got really sick and you want to take care of her, that should be enough to show who you really are. Or how about tutoring the quintuplets after they moved out of their father's place for basically free? He simply just wanted to be around them and would tutor them for next to nothing, while also working his part-time job at a bakery. Some of the things he does will rub the people the wrong way, but it all stems down from that promise again, and his care for his family and the Quints, which I think makes him at least a decent protagonist to follow. Alright, now that we've talked about Futaro, let's talk about the quintuplets. I'll do it in the order they were named after, so we'll start with the first, name-wise, all the way to the fifth. And first on our list is the first of the quintuplets, which you could distinguish by her short pink hair, earrings, the one who has a job as an actress, whose best subject in school is math, and the one who calls him, I'll put it bluntly, I don't like her. She does do a lot of good, which I do like, such as being the only one to provide any income for all five of them when they moved out of their father's care. She works hard, and was one of two sisters that didn't completely alienate Futaro at the start of his tutoring, along with Yatsuba. She had a lot going for her initially, but the later half of the second season dropped her by quite a bit. Remember how I said it was mainly Ichika's fault for them fighting at the end? Yeah, she's a pretty big snake. Miku in no way deserved what happened, but watch out for yourself before your sister, right? You win the guy somehow, but what happens if it doesn't work out? Do you fall back on the sisters who you basically betrayed and stabbed in the back? She didn't even seem to have remorse for it and was gonna follow through. Like, come on. There's also some other stuff we found out she did when she was younger, but I'm not gonna spoil that for everyone. Ichika in no way deserves to be that bright at the end, but for all we know, she could still be, and it makes me a little angry. I take that back, it makes me pretty angry. The second quintuplet you could tell by her butterfly ribbons above her ears, along with her initially long and later short pinkish red hair. The tsundere character, if any of you are interested in that, I personally am not, with her best subject being English, and she's the one who calls Futaro solely by his last name, or later on she calls him. Now, season 1, I was not on Nino train. I thought she was too judgmental, her tsundere attitude was getting to me, and the drugging she did to Futaro just made me kinda scared. Then, her character developed for the better. After the initial fallout with her sisters, she realized how important it is not to ostracize herself from them and made up. Basically, when she cut her hair, I started to like her a lot more. She's more upfront, she's not as judgmental, and her attitude and selfishness stopped, to an extent. She's also the first one to actually confess, and it wasn't even subtle or discreet, or at least when Fudo was listening. She straight up told him how she felt, and I respect that and commend her for the courage to tell him up front. Also, the fact she wants her sisters and her to be so close is nice, but it is upsetting just after seeing her run off. But she made up for it after going off on Ichigo and helping Miku at the end, which shows her true colors. With her character development and care for her sisters, Nino grew on me, and I did started to kind of like her. Next of the quintuplet sisters is Miku, the one in the middle. She has normal length brown hair, always has headphones around her neck. Thank God she understands over ears better than in or on ear headphones. And calls Fudoro by his name directly, like the more aloof and quiet personality of the Nakano sisters. Miku is exceptionally gifted when it comes to history or social studies. As I said before though, don't base your opinion of Best Girl based on their academic performance because Miku still can't do anything else. That said, Miku does have a lot going for her that I do like. She will work hard in anything that interests her, such as learning something simple like how to bake bread to impress Futaro because she can't cook for her life. She also deeply cares about her sisters, like how she went to bring Nino back after she left the Nakano household. While I did overall like her, she does lack confidence, and her introverted personality can get in the way for her to have the confidence to let Futaro know how she feels, which is not a good thing, not to mention her clear jealousy towards other girls who talk to him. Nonetheless, Miku overall is likable, and if she is that bright at the end, I don't think anyone will complain. The fourth sister is Yatsuba, easily distinguishable with her shorter orange hair and her bunny-eared ribbon, along with the one who calls him. She unfortunately is also the dumbest out of all the sisters, which, in all honesty, isn't that low of a bar. She is still decent at Japanese, but she still heavily struggles in pretty much everything else. Nonetheless, she does put in a lot of work to improve her grades, and she is honest to a fault, which I really do like. Take, for example, when they all took a break and went to an amusement park. Yasuba camped in the Ferris wheel in order to secretly continue studying, all to make sure she does her part to pass their exams. I didn't even mention how she does like helping others and making sure they're taken care of, but that's a double-edged sword. Here's the problem with that. It's at the cost of her own well-being. The fact that she won't put her foot down once in a while and say no is an issue worth taking at when looking at her. Take an instance when she helped out the track team. She knew she should be studying for exams, and she wanted to for the most part. But she couldn't bring herself to deny going to a meet because the team captain guilt tripped her into staying. This ultimately was an event that did bring the sisters back together, but it is a bit of a burden on everyone else since they need to help bail you out because of that. Despite that though, her overall character is great. Her high-flying optimism, care, and willingness to work, even if it sucks for her, raises her character stock for the better. Also, she's best girl. Anyway, moving on to the final quintuplet. The final quintuplet is the quote-unquote youngest one. Itsuki has long red hair with a lick at the top, along with her starship accessories. In addition, she is also the one who calls Futaro. She is the most diligent out of all of her sisters, and she will do her work and try her hardest. But the results don't really reflect that, more or less. She was the first one to meet Futaro, and her confrontational personality shows, and throughout the first season, her stubbornness is also easily visible, seeing as she doesn't want to work with Futaro at the cost of her own grades. I feel that though, there are some people I just don't get along with, and I'd rather not deal with them. That said, Itsuki eventually swallowed up her pride and accepted him as her tutor and got help. But outside of her tutoring, she eats a lot and that's about it. There is a period where Itsuki wants to be her mother, but even then that's not as interesting as what the others are doing. Even Ichigo being the biggest snake in the world was more interesting than what Itsuki has to offer. There is one bit that was somewhat interesting, but I don't want to go into detail because I might spoil it. For Itsuki's side of that though, once it was over, it was just eh. Like it's not actually about you, so there's really no point there. I wouldn't be upset if Itsuki gets picked at the end, but I would just be like, what do you see in her, dude? Overall, the cast of characters is well designed. Most of the Quints are likable, and even the ones that aren't as likable, they still have something to appreciate. Not to mention, they all have a case to be that bride at the end, which just makes the anime as a whole a lot more interesting. Now, full disclosure, I was planning on doing a full review of this anime, where I talk about the animation, the story, in addition to the characters, but there's some things out of my control and I didn't really have the time to do them, so the character reviews it is. I will come back to it one day though, so stay tuned for that if that interests you. Anyway, this was done in preparation for the movie being released. Now, I did read the manga, so I know who wins and I know what happens. Don't worry, I won't spoil it. I just want to say what I want to see out of the movie, and it's not much, it's pretty simple. All I ask is that you avoid the last 7 or 8 chapters before the actual ending, and then I think the movie would be fine. That ending was just dragged on so long, and if that's added in, well, the audience is just going to be as disappointed as the manga readers were.